Folks, how's it going? It's Descattys. In this video, I'm in my shed. I'm after a weekend out up the woods. It's been raining, it's been very damp. Even though it's August, we've still had some really kind of almost jungle conditions where it's been very humid and such like, and we've been sweating, and obviously kit gets damp from the rain. We've had some really heavy downpours over the weekend. So what I want to do in this little video really is just show you some of the admin, the aftermath that you should go through when you come back off your weekends. Now for me, whether it's because of being in the military and such like, my priority is when I get back off a weekend is to sort my admin out before I do anything else. And it was normally something that was drilled into as being in the armed forces, or you know, if you're aware of it, you normally find that you'll come back into camp or whatever, the first priority is to sort all the kit out, get it all back in the stores, get it all clean vehicles, whatever it is, and then you obviously work on yourself. So the first thing what I've done is literally outside on the line, I've just put so what I'm doing right now is everything obviously gets packed away into different bags and such like, right, even though they're waterproof. Okay, my sleeping system, for example, for the last sort of all through the summer, I've been using just a poncho liner and my Swagman by Helicontex. At the moment the Swagman is hanging out on the line. It's still a little bit overcast, but it's dry, and every now and again the sun's coming out, and then there's a slight breeze, so hopefully I'll get the stuff dried a little bit better. Not that it was overly damp, but I don't want to pack kit away damp. Secondly, I've got my waterproof. My waterproof obviously got wet because it stands to reason it was raining yesterday, and obviously wearing the waterproof, that's what it is. And then finally, the only other thing I've got out there at the moment is my tarp. Now my tarp, believe it or not, even after the downpours from yesterday and such like, packing it away, it didn't get that in the morning. It was dried out a little bit. It was still damp, but not as bad. But what I won't do is obviously using I kind of use a waterproof bag to put my tarp in. The last thing you want to do is start leaving that gear in there wet and all the rest of it, because it just starts to mould a little bit. It can have an effect on the materials, and not only that, the last thing you want as discomfort, is if you're out in it all the time and you're having to change your tarp, but when you come back off a weekend and such like, it's easier just to hang your gear out on the line if it's possible. It might even take you a few days. It might mean that you get back off your weekend and the weather's still crap, so then you'll have to find out that you have to, like myself, I'll hang stuff up in the shed and such like. Now at the moment, if you just look here, I mean, even just down to this torch, okay, this Gold Zero, even the paracord has got wet, so the paracord's damp, so I'll hang them up and dry them. My ridgeline off my tarp, that's been hung up. If you would have seen the last video, I was using a soil filter. We were collecting water off of Barney's tarp, and I've got a bit of issue of drinking water straight off a tarp. I really don't like the idea of that. Leaves fall on it, it gets smoky and everything else. So what I didn't mind doing was collecting the water into a couple of receptacles, pouring it into the old bag from the soya, and then obviously pumping it through the filter. Now the filtration system, what I'm doing right now is, if I can even find it, because I've put it down somewhere, what I'm doing with the filtration system, I'm basically just, oh, here it is. Basically what I'm doing is I'm using the syringe, and bear with me folks, because obviously I've just emptied the stuff, so even down to my soy filter, even though I've only used it a few times, there wasn't really any sediment, I would have thought, in the water too much, maybe just a bit of leaf matter come off the top. But what I'm doing right now is I'm using the syringe, and what I'll do is I'll literally just give that a squirt through the filter just to get rid of any water that might be in there. Okay, try and get rid of as much of that water. And then what I will do as well, I'll take it indoors, and I'll even leave it on the side indoors, or I'll leave it just hanging up in the shed somewhere warm, so it gets rid of all that water, because obviously water just sitting there stagnating will harbour bacteria. Alright, so it's not a bad admin to sort of do that as well. So I mean, I can even just hang it up here now, because even though it's, we're still in the summer here, so everything's going to dry out pretty quick in the shed anyway. Okay, and obviously the syringe I can put back in the bag. with the rest of my water purification kit, and I will leave that out as well just to get aired. And that leads on to water bottles as well. I mean, I had a couple of decor bottles with me, and I also had my Pathfinder, my 32-ounce bottle. Now what I'll do with the bottles as well, I mean, I'll always air the bottles. I always literally get them home, I'll bring them in the shed, and if you look here, I mean, I've got wands of hazel and stuff like that, and what I'll do is I'll just put them upside down on there and allow the water to drip out, and then that way you're not pooling water inside the bottles as well, because the last thing you want to do is, just by leaving a few drops of water in the bottles, all that happens is it just starts to stagnate in there, and if you're not using them for a few weeks, okay, you'll get that horrible smell, and you obviously need to rinse them out, and sometimes you might even need to treat them with a bit of bleach or something like that. So it makes sense to aerate all your gear, you know, aerate everything, you know, from your water bottles down to your sleeping bag. All right, so again, I'll leave them there. And now, folks, I might be teaching you to suck eggs, I don't know, but I think it's not a bad idea to sort of talk about admin and such like. Now, even for example, I'm not gonna do anything in any kind of sequential order, but it's even down to my knife. Now, like my Nomad. So what I'll do in here, I've got a stropping board. Obviously, I've just been doing really simple tasks with the knife, whether it's this one or the Nomad. And then what I'll do is I'll strop that knife, okay, to get it sharp and ready for the next trip out. Okay, what I don't tend to do too much is kind of leave my blades until they go blunt and then work on them. I like to try and do them after every weekend, so the blades are all sharpened up already for the next trip. Occasionally with the axes I might leave it to one side, and I'll do them in a slightly bigger case, because obviously sheaths need polishing up, maybe you want to clean up your handles and such like. But with the knives, I'll kind of do them pretty much now. So that'll be this one. And then obviously it will be the, I was using this quite a lot as well the weekend, so the Wolverine will get a good clean up and a strop as well. As I say, excuse me, I've only been using it to chop wood and such like, so really, you know, the knife should only need a strop on a board. They shouldn't need to be put over stones or anything like that, unless you've obviously damaged the blades and such like. Okay, and again, with it being leather and such like, this will be hung up in the shed as well and allowed to air, so no moisture collects in there, and I'll literally just hang that up somewhere and allow that to air as well. Now, one that always strikes me with some people, I see it with people that I camp with, and I see it just on campsites in general, is some people don't clean their pots until they get them home. Okay, they'll kind of use them and then leave their food debris in and such like, and clean them when they get home. The only time I might occasionally do that is just with my frying pan. If there's oil still in the bottom of the frying pan, I'll kind of leave that. Not because I'm worried about hygiene, but then what I'll do is when I get it home, I'll stick it on an intense heat and obviously just allow the oil to penetrate into the metal. But when I'm just talking about normal pots, now for example, this weekend just gone, I've been using this titanium pot to cook all my curries in. And what I'll do is I'll clean them. These will be clean, okay, before when I come home, while I'm out there. I won't expect to take these home now and clean them in the sink. They'll be cleaned before I get them home. I kind of find that a little bit lazy, a bit bone idle, and obviously very unhygienic to do that one, so it makes sense to keep your stuff clean. It's obviously it's a job less to do when you get home. Alright, so I've obviously used my cooking pot, and the kettle I've used as well. So I always ensure that the inside of my pots and such like are clean. The outside, forget it. I'd hardly ever clean my my pots on the outside, and that goes down to my kettle as well. I mean, if you look at my Eagle kettle, I've only had the Eagle kettle now about 2 or 3 weeks, and this is the condition of my Eagle kettle so far. Okay, and it's not because I'm some sort of dirty bastard or anything like that. It simply is because, you know, I like, there is some sort of physics with it in regards to the pots staying this colour, and the food kind of heats through a bit quicker, I believe, and liquids. But I'm not a scientist, but I keep my pots like that anyway, and I kind of like them that way anyway because they look used. Something else that probably most of us do when we're out the weekend If we don't, then that might be bad on your behalf. But your poo bag, all right. I'll top up some of my toilet paper, my wipes, and my hand sanitizer and such like, so I don't get caught out on the next trip. I'll top up my mess bottles, my fuel bottles and such like. At the moment I've been using bioethanol, which, if you don't know, is that old clear fluid. Used to use methylated spirits, but I thought I'd give this old bioethanol a go. Apparently it burns a bit cleaner than meths, but I don't, as long as it boils my water and cooks my food, I don't really care really. But at the moment I'm just using bioethanol. So then what I'll do again, I'll top up my hip flask, which is one of my old hip flasks, as you know, is just for fuel. Top up all my water bottles, okay, and you know, now again, referring to the last video, obviously you see me do a little bit of carving. I had this spoon that I'd started out of chestnut a couple of months ago, and I literally was just sticking it in my kit and just carving it as I went. It's now kind of finished, so what I'll do is I'm probably going to burn a little pattern into it, treat it with a bit of oil, and then throw it in my box. Okay, but it's also handy. It's almost like having a little bit of a, you know, something to be getting on with while you're out of the weekend, if you're, you know, if you're maybe stuck for ideas. All right, again, head torch, still a bit damp at the moment. These are quite new batteries in there, so I'll leave those batteries in there. If you do happen to have to replace your batteries out while you're camping, always make sure you carry a spare set of the correct ones that are going to go into your lighting system, and then obviously replace them ones after, as soon as you get home. Now at the moment in here, because it's a little bit dark, I might have mentioned it before, but my Goal Zero light, what I'll do now at the moment, that's only showing 2 blue indicators, and normally it would show 4. So what I would do with that now is, once I'm finished, I will then take that indoors. It's got a USB adapter on it, and then I'll stick that into the power, and obviously charge that up for the next trip out. And I'm hoping my next trip out is next weekend. So yeah, so it's a little bit of a common sense approach to it all, folks. Yeah, I mean, even down to my ration packs. I mean, I've pretty much done most of my food this weekend. I found myself eating a bit more than normal. I think I'm wondering whether or not it's because I've upped my running game and such like, but that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. And then what I'll do is I'll replace all the food that I've used over the course of the weekend, pack it all into a ration pack, and then it's kind of ready then for the next trip out. So it's also another thing as well, it's obviously sort out your footwear. I mean, obviously your clothes will go in the wash and such like. When you sort of finish doing all your other bits and pieces, all your admin is sorted, then obviously your kit can come off. Alright, also in the meantime as well, you need to sort out your footwear, regardless of what it is. Now, I was just wearing Carrymore sort of trainers over the weekend. Even though it was being wet, it wasn't really that muddy. There's no mud or anything too much on the tread or anything like that, so I haven't got nothing to worry about. But more so during the winter months, you might have, you know, boots covered in mud. You might be walking up in the hills. You know, you get peat, you got all the different acids off the soil and all that sort of stuff, and they damage the footwear. Okay, so it's very important as well to clean those, get it all off the leather, get it all off the material, whatever your boots are made of, Gore-Tex and such like. Wash all that off, and then obviously reproof your boots or your footwear, your desired choice of footwear that you use for your desired activity. All right, even down to trainers. You know, when I go out running, especially during the winter months, and my trainers do get shitted up, especially with mud and such like, you know, I'll clean my trainers up, because obviously it will just obviously prolong the life of your footwear, rather than sort of smashing them out really. Okay, I mean, it's quite ironic really. I mean, I'm talking about admin and such like, and it was during this last weekend, obviously, you know, that I use these kind of these mats. And I literally took it out, and as I took it out, even though it was dry and everything else, there was a little bit of an aroma coming off it, and I thought, crikey, I need to wash that. So obviously I'm home now, okay, and the smell was a bit of an indicator that it obviously needs washing. So what I'm going to do is I'll be sticking that in the wash today, okay, just to get all the stain. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a ground sheet, it's something that you use as a means of protection, so it is going to get dirty, it is going to get minging and all the rest of it, but for some reason there was a little bit of an aroma off it, which I didn't, I'm not too keen on. so that will be thrown into the wash as well. Okay. Now I also find it a good acid test when you've had a really good downpour of rain, especially what we witnessed over the weekend. All right, you'll obviously get a good sign as to whether or not your tent, your tarp or your shelter, whatever it is your type of shelter you're using, okay, you'll find out whether or not it's got leaks, whether it needs taping up at seams and such like, or whether it needs reproofing and that kind of thing. And then again, that's something else that you'll need to do, okay, as part of your admin. Okay, if stuff needs repairing, if stuff needs sewing up and all the rest of it, then do that. I mean, lucky enough for me, my tarp was fine, which is a bit unusual for DD tarps. So there was no leaks out of this, no leaks out of the seams or anything. So this now can be packed up. It's nice and dry, the edges are nice and dry, the tapes are dry, okay, because obviously they hold quite a bit of moisture as well. And then what I can do now is obviously fold that up. I'll fold that up. And in the bag, which is still hanging out on the line, on the rotary line, the tarp will go back in now, and then that can be stuck into my kit, so that's one less. As well, also another thing to obviously check on is your mats, is your inflatable mats. I mean, normally you'll find out over the weekend whether or not your mat's got a hole in it, and then it could end up from having a good night's sleep to maybe an uncomfortable night's sleep. I've had it on a couple of occasions now where I've used this particular mat and I've received 2 punctures in it on different, one on different occasions. One, I had an ember hit the edge of edge of it, and then a little while ago I was at another location, and I picked up one there. Okay, but I find that the good old tenacious tape's pretty good for obviously repairing your for repairing your mats and such like. It's not a bad idea as well, you know. I mean, obviously over time the tape can come off, so it's not a bad idea just to, you know, give it a quick glance over every time before you go out as part of your, you know, your after weekend or your after, you know, sort of admin checks, as it were. Okay, and then the other one, just check them just to make sure. But I think that tenacious tape's pretty good stuff. And same again, because I never used a ground sheet this weekend, this would just go out on the rotary line just to air. Now another thing that's quite important at the moment, I think, because you're getting a lot of people that are being a little bit neglectful, being a little bit silly. You're getting a lot of people sort of going out camping at the moment who are very uneducated, have no experience, no knowledge whatsoever, and they're kind of almost, in a way, sort of giving other folk a bad label, which seems to happen so much in society today. But obviously another important one is regards to leaving no trace and rubbish and such like. What I do is I've just got rid of one of my rubbish bags where I bought all my tins and such like on. Obviously the tins will be put on the fire to burn out any sort of food debris that's in them. Then they will be stamped down shut, collected in a bag, and then brought home to put in my recycling. So what I'm doing now, I keep a load of bags just inside my shed on the shelf, and then what I'll do is I'll replace that bag, and then that'll go into the top of my rucksack for the next trip out. Alright. Now also not a bad thing to do finally, just to sort of finish it off I suppose, is the rucksack itself. Now it's the rucksack that kind of obviously is doing quite a lot of the work really. It's carrying all your equipment, it's getting exposed to all different conditions and such like, whether it's wind, rain, mud, snow, ice, fire, whatever. So it makes sense as well to obviously dry out your rucksack. It can still have a little bit of moisture in there, a little bit of dampness and such like, and it will have after this weekend. So what I'll do, I'll air the rucksack, take everything out, just hang the rucksack up, let the air get to it. Okay, take all the pouches out, let all the pouches air up as well, and then that way when you pack everything away, as I say, you're not getting stuff moist, you're not going to get stuck, it's getting stuff damp, and everything as well, it starts smelling. Okay, it's very unhygienic, and that's one thing you don't want to sort of adopt with your kit. Okay. Well, hey, well that's going to make my job easier today because the sun's now come out. So finally all my kit's done now, so that only leaves me left now. So all my kit will go in the wash, okay, and then I'll jump in the shower and go and get myself clean. But that's where you lot can bugger off, because there's no way I'm taking this camera into the shower and you're going to see this fine physique of a man. Right. To death of hearing it, but obviously, as you know, this is part of my sleeping system, all with the bags that I use from from Dave Fry's. Okay, now in there is my poncho liner. All right, then I'm going to obviously put in my Swagman once it's completely dried out. The sleeping mat, that's okay. Okay, and then finally in here, the only thing I used out of it on this occasion, because the weather's been so hot, is the pillow. Alright, obviously I keep a down jacket in there and a hat and a spare pair of socks just to have inside my sleeping bag if the weather turns a little bit cold or whatever. And same again, I'll take this out of its bag, even though it does even take it out of the bag now, it feels a little bit kind of damp. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll hang up the bag as well, allow that to dry out. I'll just take that, that sort of last bit of moisture out of it, as it were, and I'll do the same with the pillow. Leave the valve off, don't leave your valves in because they tend to pop. Okay, so leave the valves off, and then what I'll do again, I'll just hang that on my little washing line, my little improvised washing line that I have inside the shed. Okay, so there it is, folks. I'm not going to keep going on. It really is just sort of getting on top of your admin. Okay, when you come back off a weekend, if your tent's wet, then obviously stick it up in the garden. Some people have got access to dry rooms or garages or spare rooms where they can dry out all their kit and such like. If you've got that, then fantastic. Me, I'm just having to use the shed, and then normally I'll just drape stuff over the rotary line and such like, but it just gives you those little bits of you know, helps you out for next time. It's nice to have all my kit pretty much packed rather than having to, you know, leading up to the week before I'm going away, then mucking around trying to find time to actually pack gear. The one thing that I might leave out to the last, if anything, is probably some of my food. I mean, obviously I pack dry foods and such like, and that stays inside my rucksack, but then if I fancy sort of mixing it up a little bit, maybe having, you know, sort of bacon and egg and such like, and I might want to, you know, take a little cool bag or something like that with some extra fresh foods in there, then maybe I'll do so. But on the whole, it's normally everything what's packed into the rucksack, and I like to carry that on my back. Okay, this weekend just gone, because of where we go, water can be a little bit difficult to obtain. It wasn't this weekend because of the rain that we had, so I was able to utilise some of the water that obviously dropped from the sky. And then secondly, on top of that, I always bring out a few cans of beer, something just to have a nice social when we're sitting around. No, we don't totally get on it and get drunk. It's literally just a few beers just to sort of like enjoy the evening and such like. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that video, folks. Nothing you know, expert about it. It's just a little bit of common sense. Okay, if I've missed a few bits out, then please tell me. But on a whole, you know, it's just down to you to sort of like use your little bit of common sense when it comes to actually unpacking your kit, getting it sorted out for your next trip out, okay, and trying to think a little bit ahead of yourself, okay. But one of your big priorities is obviously when you come back off a weekend is you get your admin sorted, sort it out. Don't leave it for a day. You might get caught up in your other things in life, and then before you know it, you come to unpack your rucksack, and what you've got in there is a steaming mass of materials that are soaking wet, stinking, covered in insects, food that might be rotten and such like. So it's good to get on top of your gear. All right, so thanks for watching. Okay, please check out the description. All right, if you want to subscribe to the channel and you haven't already done so, please do so. You want to leave a comment? Yeah, great. All right, so thanks for watching. Please take care. Descattys signing out, and I'll see you on the flip side. Laters.